Oh, you just caught me planting trees. And you're probably asking, like, what do you mean you're planting trees if you're actually playing with your phone? Yes, I am planting trees, and let me explain how it works. Let me explain you everything. First of all, welcome to my channel. My name is Stella, and here I'm trying to figure out how to be more sustainable. And one of the new sustainable habits I developed in the last few months, I started using the Ecosia browser, which claims to be planting trees while I'm doing some search in the internet. For somebody like me who spends lots of time researching things, googling things, actually now technically it's ecosing things, I would be definitely glad if, as a positive side effect, some trees would be growing while I'm doing something on the internet. So of course, when I first time heard about the Ecosia browser, I was ready to jump in. But the critical and cynical part of me was wondering, is it actually true that there is a search engine that would donate some money to grow some trees? Is it actually real? Is Ecosia another greenwashing company that claims something in her marketing leaflet but doesn't actually do that? Is it a scam? Maybe somebody is trying, to make you switch to another search engine, to another browser, but they're not really doing anything. What are the caveats of this? Maybe, they are technically planted few trees, but then they have actually other things they're doing that are not very sustainable or not very ethical. So those questions were really bugging me. Although I was using Ecosia already for almost half a year, I still didn't know the answers. So I decided to do a real deep dive, and that's what we're going to be talking about this video, what I discovered. I will tell you more about the company, why is it created, why the heck they even planting trees, are they really planting trees, how the whole thing works, how is it possible that I search something and then there is money to plant a tree, how this money appears. So all these questions are researched, and all these questions I will be talking about in this video. Well, let's start from the very beginning. What is Ecosia? Ecosia claims to be a search engine that plants trees. This is a company that is based in Germany, in Berlin. It was created in 2009. Ecosia is a social enterprise. That means that the main purpose of the company is to use the generated income, to use the revenue towards some social issues. In their case, it's planting trees, helping with the reforestation of the lands. That means like areas that used to be forest, but now they are not forest anymore. For example, there were some wildfires or people just cutting trees for some other stupid reasons. They're helping to reforest those areas back. On their website, Ecosia claims that they use 80% of their revenue towards planting new trees. By the time I'm recording this video, Ecosia claims to have already planted 105 million trees. Besides that, what else we know about Ecosia? They are the B Corp, so they are officially certified by the third parties that they are a transparent company, that they are the company who works towards like sustainable goals. They were certified back in 2014, and actually they were the first German company to become a B Corp. Other thing that Ecosia claims about itself, that they are fully transparent in terms of finances, which they're doing by publishing the financial reports every month. Also, they claim they are very careful with user privacy. So compared to other search engines we're not going to mention right now, or at least not yet, they are taking our privacy seriously. So they're not tracking us, they're not selling our data, they're not using our data the way it's not supposed to be used. Also, this company really cares about climate change and CO2 emissions. So they are right now, as of summer 2020, they are actually carbon negative. So they not only offset the carbon they create, and I will talk about this a little bit later in the video, but they also actually doing even better than that. So let's dive a little bit more deeper into each area, how sustainable they are, how exactly they generate income, what means they're transparent, what means they're sustainable, how exactly the tree planting is organized, and so on. The video probably going to be semi-long, so please use the timestamps in the description as well as the YouTube function to skip through certain parts if you are not interested in them. Let's start with the most important question, I think, because I was wondering myself, how is it possible that they plant trees? Where do they get the money from? How is it even financially possible? So because Ecosia is a search engine, they actually make money the way other search engines do, which is basically through placing ads. It doesn't matter what you use, Bing, Google, Yahoo, I don't know what other, Yandex, if you're in Russia, what other search engines you use, you would always see some advertising within your search. There's not a single search agent that doesn't show your advertising, at least not a single big one. So Ecosia does this as well. They do it in the ethical and responsible manner, so you know exactly that this is advertising. They don't try to hide it. All the revenue that they generate selling this advertising, they use for trees. So basically for us consumers, the more we use Ecosia, the more chances we create for the Ecosia to generate money and to send this money to certain organizations that do the planting. So this is how it works technically. And I really like this type of companies. Instead of going around and asking people for donations, because some people cannot afford or some people don't trust donations, they actually created a working business, a working financial model. And the company exists for more than 10 years, because last year they were actually 10 years they exist on the market. So obviously by this point they probably know what they are doing and their model is somewhat efficient. It's efficient as a social enterprise when they make money doing business while spending all this money on actually social issues and on a great cause. As I mentioned before, they already planted more than 100 million trees, and they are actually covering something like 9,000 different planting sites. In terms of tree planting, they work with the partners, so they work with companies who are actually non-profits, foundations, who are focusing directly on planting trees. So Ecosia goes to these companies, partners with them, and gives them the money. So Ecosia itself, as a company, as far as I understand, they don't plant trees directly. They actually trust the people who are professional in reforestations to do that. So the way how they work, they don't just randomly give somebody money. They actually work with certain organizations who are proven to be efficient, who are proven to actually know what they are doing, knowing the local community. Also, they work with the organizations that actually spend money wisely, that it doesn't cost let's say, $10,000 to plant one tree. Another thing that's also important in terms of how they do reporting and transparency, obviously they can say oh, we planted 100 million trees, and then they just poke the land around and just put some, I don't know, branch and they're oh yeah, we planted. But the way how Ecosia measures the impact, so when they say we planted 100 million trees, they only count the trees that have a chance to survive for at least 3 years. Obviously, if you ever tried planting something, you plant things, but they don't always survive. Obviously, because they work with the professional organizations who know how to do, tree planting, they ensure that the results are greater. But the cool thing, they don't overpromise things. They're actually very reasonable with their counting. They only count trees that they can actually really have a good chance to survive. And basically how they explain, for example, they're gonna plant 1,000 trees, but they know that not every tree gonna survive. And for example, they know from the stats, from the experience, that around 70% of trees will survive. So when they're gonna report the amount of trees that they actually planted, we planted 750 trees. So they don't even count the trees that don't have a high chance to survive, which is again a great way, because they could inflate the numbers, but they're not trying to inflate the numbers. They're actually trying to give a more realistic data, which is a good thing as well. The cool question I ask myself, so basically, how long should I use Ecosia to even plant one particular tree? The cool thing is that when you use the Ecosia browser or the Ecosia extension in your current browser, let's say Chrome, Firefox, whatever Safari you use, you will actually see how many trees were planted in your name so far. Based on what Ecosia claims on their website, it takes around 45 times for you to search something to plant one tree. Another question that I ask myself, how much money they actually spend on trees? Do they really spend most of its money, or is it just a nice marketing treat? So what I learned so far, first of all, since they're B Corp, they have to be more transparent than just any random company. So it's really good that they're certified as a B Corp. Also, they publish their reports, so you can actually go there and see how much money they exactly made, how much money was spent on what. You see the whole split. Okay, this much money was spent on salaries, on the office, on the servers. This much money was spent on advertising. This much money was spent on actual trees. I did a little math to double check their claim that 80% of their profit goes towards the tree planting. And yes, if you take their revenue minus taxes, minus operational cost, and minus advertising, you will actually get the number that matches the 80% claim. Another important thing about their financial results, something that they claim on their website, and I think it's very important. They said Ecosia doesn't pay out any dividends to its owner. So this company doesn't exist for somebody to get richer, to somebody to buy, 10 private jets or something like this. So they do not pay any dividends to its owners. All profits stay within the company and will be eventually either be invested or used for tree planting. So basically the money that company generates stays inside the company and is used on the cause. Yeah, there are people working for the company, they have their salaries, so they make the money, there is office and other operational costs, but at least the money is not used as dividends. Also, as far as I know, the company, when it was developed, it took a bootstrapping method. So the company was created 10 years ago. That's why we only hear about it now, because they took a slow way to grow, like more like natural, more organic growth path. So they never went for venture capital. They never went for investments or other things that happen quite often here in North Cal. In Silicon Valley, basically they took a longer way, but this way they ensured that the money that the company makes, they don't need to pay back to some investor who is purely interested in the money. The people who work in the company, they're actually more interested in the purpose and in the cause than into becoming rich or making money, which is really noble, and I almost feel like I want to work for Ecosia myself. So I guess being a big corp, being transparent, and as well actually proving for a long term that they are still doing the same cause. It's not that they were just created last year and decided they're going to do it and then they changed their mind. And also because they actually planted 100 million trees and they have partners who did plant those trees. So you can find this information online. This makes me think that Ecosia is surprisingly legit. Ecosia is really serious about their tree planting love. They even have a person in the office who is called tree planting officer. And I like how he said, I don't understand why it wouldn't. Most of the businesses, the way how they're created, they are just for the profit, for maximization of the money that company makes. But the way how the future looks and how the nature is destroyed and the planet is really used up. It should be actually essential for companies not only think of making profits, but also actually doing something for the environment. That's why for them it's something like trees are our future. So basically how they explain on their website why they're even doing this, they say that trees are the superheroes of the planet. Apart from being the most efficient CO2 absorbers we have, trees also help mitigate climate change, restart water cycles, stop deserts from spreading, and turn barren grounds back into the fertile woods and farmland. And this clip that you just saw on the screen, this is the clip where they show how they did certain projects a while ago in Brazil and other places, and how the land looked quite barren and how it's actually much greener now. So Ecosia not only claims this, but there are already results that prove that they're doing something cool. But they're not only doing this for the planet, they're also doing it for other reasons. They also say that they're planting trees because they want to take care of local communities. And that's what they say. Trees help to empower women and lift people out of poverty. Our projects are helping to revitalize communities. Growing fresh produce in agroforestry systems provides food and income for those who need it most. Trees help to regenerate depleted soils and allow people to thrive off their land rather than having to migrate in search of better living conditions. If you ever spend lots of time in so-called third world countries, I spent 7 years living in Indonesia, when you go to some remote places, you can see how it's hard for people to actually make money there. And lots of younger generations or lots of smart and really cool people, they actually leave their little villages behind and go to the bigger cities or go to some tourist areas to make money. So whatever Ecosia is doing by helping the communities to develop and helping the communities bring new initiatives, they actually create more jobs and more purpose for local people to stay in the area where they are born, instead of going to the big city and looking for some random opportunities, instead of all congregating in the big cities. I don't know if you know what I mean. And as of their claim, they say that local men and women can find stable employment, that's what I mentioned, and earn an income of their own, which can help to stabilize political and economic situation in developing countries. Thanks to this income, parents can afford to send their children to school, buy medicine, and build houses. So, it's not that they just only care about trees, but actually the way how they decided to approach the tree planting business, they can actually help to lots of other social causes. And it's not only humans living on this earth, but also animals. Ecosia says that by planting trees, we can help to create and maintain a habitat for endangered animal species, which will help to support the biodiversity. Trees can also help shape and restore landscape, which with their strong roots, they can stabilize shoreline and mountainsides. And basically, simply by planting a tree, you can fight climate change, you can restore landscapes, you can protect wildlife, you can provide nutrition, employment, education, medical assistance, and economic stability. So much in just such a great cause. And again, it's kind of nice that it's not asking from us to even lift our finger. I mean, yeah, you have to lift your finger to scroll to your search feed. So for us, we just use the engine. We just switch from Google to Ecosia, but just by doing this simple switch, just changing a little habit, it's almost like a butterfly effect, by doing one little action, we can actually have an influence on, other parts of the world. So I was really curious how ethical and sustainable the company is. We already know that it's B Corp certified. That already sounds good. But also what they claim on their website, whenever they choose a company or a partner to work with in terms of forestation, they really look closely with whom to work. And also basically they make sure that the companies they work with, they are not using child labor. They have ethical approach to their employees, so the employees earning their living wages. Also, they look into companies that having a sustainable tree planting practices. Let's say they don't use pesticides and other things. So basically, they're not only just doing good by planting trees, they actually making sure that they are supporting the right businesses, supporting the right companies. Another way how we can judge the company in terms of sustainability, especially if it's a tech company, because every tech company owns or rents servers that help, obviously, the search engine to run. And I don't know if you knew it or not, but running servers requires a lot of power. So sometimes you think like, oh, it's an internet company, how they can harm the environment? They actually can, because they're using the power, and the question is where this power comes from. So Ecosia not only does good by planting trees, they're also very considerable from where they take the power. So in the last couple of years, what they did, they built solar panels that could create energy to support their servers. And for example, right now, and I will link the report below, they are working on 200% renewable energy. So that means they're not only covering all their own operations, but they're actually covering some extra. They create some extra power, which is great. So they don't use fossil fuels to run their servers. So while we are using the search engine, ourselves as a consumers, we don't contribute to more fossil fuels usage. So basically what Ecosia claims, they say we are not just carbon neutral, we are actually carbon negative.
Ecosia started building solar plants in 2018. This way, we now feed enough renewable energy into the grid to power every single one of your Ecosia searches with 100% renewable energy.
So by running on 100% renewable energy and by using our surplus income in order to finance tree planting projects across the world, we are much more than just climate neutral. Each search is removing substantial amounts of CO2 from the air.
This is actually an interesting point. When I was researching about Ecosia, I found lots of other websites claiming that Ecosia is not exactly carbon neutral or negative because they're using Microsoft Bing to run their searches, to run their ads, and Microsoft is not working on 100% renewable energy, although they're committing to that. But at the same time, the Ecosia themselves, they claim that every search you do on Ecosia goes through their solar panels and their renewable energy. So this is a little bit confusing for me, but let's assume they are not lying to us. I'm still working on researching more on this topic, and if I'm gonna get more information, I will just add it later on to the description of this video. Actually, I will link a bunch of resources below in case you want to see more in detail and do deeper dives the way I did. I will link the most interesting resources down below. Another thing to consider in terms of sustainability, since it's a company who generates lots of revenues and these revenues are reinvested or stored in certain financial institutions, it's also important with which institutions Ecosia works. From what they claim on their website, they say that all our savings are parked at ethical banks like GLS and Triodos. So again, they're not only thinking about planting trees or where the servers run, but they're also very considerate with what business partners they work, whom they are supporting, and those companies are worth being supported, which I really like. I wish more companies had approach like that. And last but not least, the question I want to discuss here is actually, is Ecosia as a search engine efficient? Do I like switching to it? Am I gonna, as a consumer, lose something if I give up Google and switch to Ecosia or whatever you're using to search your results? So my personal experience when I switched to Ecosia, in the beginning, I noticed a little bit of difference. I felt like, it seems like my search results are not as good. That's what I was thinking in the very beginning. But then I started to deep dive, why is it actually happening? One of the things is that actually happening, for example, Google, if you use Google, they obviously tracking you and they knowing everything about you, because especially if you're like me, who is using for the last, 20 years. So they know a lot about you. And obviously when you look for something, they're going to fine tune those results to actually match your needs, even something that you not really actually mentioning in the search result, but something you discussed with your friend 2 days ago and they listened to you. I'm joking. Or not. Ecosia doesn't track you, they take your privacy serious. Might look like the results are not as good, but I guess it's something you can get used to. In terms of actual numbers, the way how the Christian, the CEO of Ecosia, claims, the search results you get in Ecosia are actually the search results that are 95% same as Google. So only the 5% will be different. So it's not that you're getting completely different results. Important thing to mention about how Ecosia works. Technically, it's not exactly a search engine, basically a mix of search engine and a browser, because their search results and ads are powered by Microsoft Bing. Basically, what they say on their website, we use Bing search technology, which is enhanced with Ecosia own algorithms. So obviously, because they use Bing as a base search engine, some people claim that Google is a better search engine than Bing. For me personally, things that I definitely miss sometimes in Bing and in Ecosia is that when I Google for something, when I look for something, Google has lots of these snippets that help you to organize your knowledge. At the same time, there is a good news the way how Ecosia approaches the search results. For example, Google, they're gonna choose what to push to you. Obviously, they have their interest, what companies or what search results they want to push. The way how Ecosia approaches it, first of all, they don't try to sell you something they're more interested to sell to you. They actually are more interested to give you like legit search result. This is how it works in reality. The Google will recommend you the washing machine that is sold by their highest advertising bidder, which is where they make the most profit. But in the case of Ecosia, they have the flexibility to say no, and they would rather recommend you another washing machine with less profit margin, but which is sustainable and produced under fair conditions. And also the way how they're developing their search engine, they're trying to make sure that if you're interested in being sustainable, into making greener choices, they're gonna help you with that. For example, you look in your search result, a flight to your next destination. So besides the flight results, they're also gonna show you greener options. For example, they're gonna tell you like, hey, you know that actually taking a train to this place, in case it's feasible, might be a greener option. So basically, they're gonna help you with your more sustainable, more eco-friendly choice by providing you these results. Also, if you look for some companies or some brands, they're going to prioritize those brands that are more sustainable, more eco-friendly, which is kind of interesting. And I would love to see how it's going to develop in the future, if it's going to really work like that, because I would be glad to see more sustainable companies in my search results. Because obviously, if it's a sustainable company, which is super small, they didn't invest too much in advertising yet, obviously their search results will be never in the top, they will be somewhere in the bottom, while the big corporations will be always on the top, as well as paying big corporations. And I'm glad that Ecosia is thinking about it and they're trying to do something to combat that. So to summarize everything that I already said before, Ecosia is definitely a legit company. It's not a scam. It's not a greenwashing company. If you look at different parts of the business, the way how they treat their partners, labor, how they approach to tree planting, how they actually approach everything, it seems that it's very, very sustainable approach. And also, for me personally, it's really important that the company already exists for the 10 years. That means it's not some model they created yesterday and trying to implement it, and God knows if it's gonna last. I think if it lasted for the 10 years, and in 10 years they managed to grow as much as 100,000 trees and help communities and expand their business, I believe that they're gonna do even bigger results further on. So if you haven't used the Ecosia browser yet, please do it. Basically, if you want to do it on mobile, you have to go and download the Ecosia app and use it as your main browser. If you are on desktop and using whatever, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, just download the extension. Again, I will list all the links below for you to access it much faster. And which is even more important, if you have friends that haven't heard about Ecosia yet, haven't used it, please either tell them about Ecosia or share this video with them. And I would be actually glad if you share this video on your social media, because I believe that Ecosia is doing a great thing. And the reason I'm also making this video, not only to research something and tell what I've researched, but actually to spread the word about this company. They're really great. There are already a bunch of sustainable YouTubers talking about Ecosia, and I'm gonna also link their videos down in the description below if you want to see more videos. Maybe somebody else approach you like more. But anyway, let's spread the word about Ecosia. It's a great initiative, and I hope there will be more companies trying not only to maximize their profits, but actually doing something good for the planet. And also, if you actually like my detailed companies or brands review, I'm gonna link below a playlist of all the brands and companies I reviewed so far. For example, a couple of weeks ago, I reviewed the Stojo company. It's a collapsible, reusable coffee cup. So if you're looking for a coffee cup that's collapsible and reusable, please check out this video below, as well as other product reviews that I've done or actually gonna do in future. You can all see them in the playlist linked down below or somewhere here as well. And see you in my next video. Don't forget to leave a comment if you have something to share with me about Ecosia, or you just want to say that it's a great company, because I think it is, and you want just to share your opinions about that. Don't forget that the comment section is there for you, and see you in my next video. Bye bye.